Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Instagram Live of Understanding Stress. I'm just going to get Miriam Hussey on now. Hang on a sec. I'll get her on now. I think we're lucky if we've got a few people watching now because Daniel Whiffin's final is about to start, so wishing him all the best. Hi, Miriam. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself? It's such a lovely evening, isn't it?
It's beautiful, thank God. Thank God. Can you see me okay and hear me okay?
I can, yeah. I've had to close the blinds here because the sun was actually blinding, so it's different for a change.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
take that. We'll definitely take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation and our chat tonight because it's definitely a conversation or a topic that we all face and we all have stress and challenges in our lives in very different degrees at different stages in our lives. So I'm excited to dive into that with you tonight and take it where it needs to go.
Yeah, so the Pharmacy 360 program is all about, having that 360-degree approach to a person's health, like to every individual person's health. And stress is a huge element within that. So yeah, the conversation tonight is really just to help people really not normalize stress, but just talk about how common it is, like how it's okay to feel stressed, and stress is a natural response to lots of situations we find ourselves in. But it's all about how we manage stress on a day-to-day basis, and when things get thrown at us, how we cope with it. Um, yeah, so we may as well get going. I was just saying best of luck to Daniel Whiffen on his the swimming in the Olympics. He's doing his final now,
Oh,
so fingers crossed for him. If someone can let us know
I know.
when it's over.
Please put it in the comments.
Yeah. But Miriam, if you want to start by just like introducing yourself and your role as an integrative health and wellness coach. Myself and Miriam were in college together. Actually, I was just a couple of years behind Miriam in pharmacy, so we're not too far apart with our paths and where our kind of journeys have led us to.
Yeah, absolutely. So like yourself, I'm a pharmacist and studied in RCSI and did my, your 5 years, your internship year, and then I practiced as a community pharmacist for over a decade. And I suppose in that journey, I learned so much about health, about well-being, but I suppose more so in what happens when your health's taken away or something happens and you get that light bulb moment where you see the devastation that it can cause in someone's life when there is an illness.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to look at, the way that we were living our lives. And I suppose for me, I wasn't long working in the pharmacy world. And I know you've experienced this as well. And this is why we're doing this 360 integrative approach. I felt like I was working in a sick care system as opposed to a healthcare system. And I've always been passionate about health. I've always, growing up, it was always my passion and my dream was kind of health, well-being, and hence why I went into the world of pharmacy. And I found myself, I suppose, getting a little bit frustrated at times because I literally became, it was just like, here's a pill, here's a pill, here's a pill for every ill
Mm-hmm.
sensation. And I suppose by working, for those many years in community frontline, no more than yourself, you get to see and witness the trends. You get to see and witness the dots not being joined or being
Mm-hmm.
joined. And you can see, how an illness is manifesting in front of your eyes potentially. And I suppose another thing that I really was blown away by was the world of polypharmacy, where someone might come in with something in, a tummy issue or blood pressure, and then they're on a tablet, and next thing they're on another tablet and another tablet and another tablet, because this side effect of one is needed to counteract the others,
Mm-hmm.
and so on.
Yeah.
And I suppose I had a light bulb moment one day where I was just, looking at I said to myself, are these people actually changing anything in their life, in their day-to-day habits, behaviors, actions, thoughts? Or are they just getting their box of magic potions from me, then leaving the pharmacy and nothing changing in their life and coming back in the next month to just top up
Yeah.
again? And we all know that the definition of Einstein's insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for me, it was just, I was like, if I could get out from behind the counter and speak about lifestyle medicine, speak about integrative health, speak about the impact that the things you're doing every day is having either on, your future of health and ease and happiness, or creating a future of less ease, which is dis-ease, lack of ease, um, by looking at the way that you're living your life. So
Yeah.
looking at your thoughts, looking at your stories, looking at your lifestyle, looking at your diet, looking at your movement, looking at your relationships, looking at your sleep, looking at your stress, which we're going to talk about tonight, which is really the cornerstone of everything
Yeah.
and the instigator of every illness,
Mm-hmm.
and the impact that emotions have and play on our physical health. And for me, that was my journey. And from that, I've gone on to study loads of different things to bring it all together and I'll speak about what we're speaking about tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when we talk about stress, like there's so many different types of stress. So maybe we could start by discussing that, like what the common causes of stress are and how they vary, like the different types of stress from like there's good stress as well and then chronic stress, which can lead to so many illnesses that we see every day in the pharmacy and witness. And the problem with like when your health comes into play, whether stress had a role to play in causing your illness. Now, not to say that every illness is caused by stress, but many are, whether it's IBS, like inflammation in the gut, or, there's so many things that stress can bring on from chronic inflammation. But,
I would go as far as saying that every illness, up to 95% of all illnesses, comes from stress because we all are living in a very fast-paced, modernized world now
yeah.
where we're always on. And it's very easy to live in the sympathetic side of the nervous system, which is that
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight red zone, always turned on, go, 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 busy, 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 rush, 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 go here, do this. And I suppose in the last maybe 30 odd years, that was nearly like, that's where you need to be, badge of honor. The more busy you are, the more productive you are, the more successful you are.
Yeah.
The more coffee you drink, the more nights out you have. Like this was all kind of nearly the aim or the
Yeah.
goal, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's thankfully been pulled, the curtains have been pulled back on that, and we're kind of pulling out the threads on that and saying, no, 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 that's not success. And
Yeah.
really what's happening and the impact that that's having on your nervous system and that dysregulation and that lack of coherence, the impact that it's having on all the organs within the body is huge. And that's why, it might be a big call to say stress is causing a lot of your illnesses, but the fact that stress, because when you're stressed, you're in that fight or flight side of the nervous system, the physiological impacts and the chemical changes that are created as a result of that, you do get flooded with your stress hormones, your cortisol and your adrenaline. And
Mm-hmm.
as a result of that, your vagus nerves gets deactivated, which is that wandering nerve that has impacts so many organs within the body, from your heart to your lungs to your digestive
Mm-hmm.
system. So yes, stress can then have a physiological knock-on effect on all of the organs within the
Yeah.
body. So that is why it's like, it's a broad statement, but
Yeah.
it has a huge, broad impact on the functionalities of the vital organs within the body: cardiovascular health, your digestive health, your lung health, your
Mm-hmm.
immune function, your reproductive health,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that then can either switch on or switch off those genes, which can either cause healing and
Yeah.
repair or cause destruction and toxicity.
Yeah.
And this isn't to come on and scaremonger, but this is just to give people an awareness of, firstly, do you know when you're stressed? Because it has become normalized.
Yeah.
And the body gets into this state of normalization where to feel stressed just is normal.
Yeah.
But while that might be very common, it's not
Yes.
normal.
That
And
myth of normal, isn't it?
yes, and I think the unraveling and the slowing down and the coming out of the sympathetic side of the nervous system, which is that fight or flight, I call it the red zone,
Mm-hmm.
that unraveling, that coming down, that cooling down can be very difficult for people. It can be nearly uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
because doing nothing can be scary for people, and it's easy to stay busy, it's easy to stay distracted, because then we don't have to face or feel some of the stuff that we're escaping
Yeah.
from, which is really the root of a lot of our stresses, comes from a disharmonious sense of self or sense of what's going on in your life, whether it's relationships, maybe it's your
Mm-hmm.
career, maybe it's your environment, maybe it's just your relationship with yourself, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
that worthiness. There's traumas in there. And if we're not willing to kind of sit with them, feel into them, and work through them and release them,
You say feel it to heal it, don't you? That.
you have to face it to feel it,
Yeah.
to heal it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I suppose, in this world, it's easier to stay running
Yeah.
and to escape it and to go. And that's where we run into difficulties long term, because the chronic buildup of those stress hormones over time, as I mentioned, have a physiological knock-on effect, and they release your inflammatory cytokines, which are fine in the interim. We do need them. If there's an infection there, it'll fight them off.
Mm-hmm.
If there's injury in the body, it'll help repair it.
Yeah.
But if it's there long term, it's compounding and it's building and it's building and it's building. And what's happening then is you're going into chronic inflammation, which is
Yeah.
the cornerstone and the root of a lot of chronic diseases that I'm sure you see every day.
Yeah.
I'm sure you give out tablets for every day. Your heart disease, your cardiovascular health, your
Mm-hmm.
diabetes, your autoimmune. Um, and really, if we can impart anything tonight, is if you take your life and look at the style in which you're living it, you can put into place very simple, not expensive, little practical tools, tips, and tricks that can help balance that nervous system, bring it back to regulated state. And by doing that, the knock on effect on helping all those organs come back to functioning in balance and harmony can be huge.
Yeah, yeah. So many people I speak to day in, day out in the pharmacy, like they kind of say, no, I can't. If I stop, I'll crash. I'd be like a train wreck kind of thing. And you're right, like people do keep running. And I was guilty of that myself. I was always very busy, did lots of sports, lots of activities, loved going out, would go to the opening of an invitation, like just go, 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 and loved it. But you do get to the point where you completely burn out, and if you don't listen to those little triggers where your little nudges that your body's trying to tell you to slow down, and you keep pushing through it all the time, you're forced to stop with sickness.
Absolutely.
And whether it's like you end up getting a flu or a cold, or like I've seen so many people my age and younger getting the shingles, which like your immune system is just floored then at that point. Like I've had shingles before, and like at our age we shouldn't be, like it's absolutely the society we're living in, and we just push ourselves so much. So like since I did my integrative health training a couple of years ago, just after COVID, I really reevaluated how I was living my own life and changed, as you said, just introduced simple, effective strategies that just give you time to stop and, sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to impart tonight, hopefully.
Yeah. And
Maybe we could just discuss the nerve. Oh, sorry.
sorry, it just is on the back of that, like, yeah, like absolutely. And nobody is
Mhm.
perfect. And I'm absolutely put my hand up and say I'm not perfect at all. But what we can do is get ourselves to a state whereby we're not pushing, forcing, constantly getting those red flags, which really sickness is like the symptoms that you get. Please stop suppressing them and denying them. We often band-aid in the world, whether that's through medication or through alcohol or through overeating or just over excess in something, but
Mhm.
we're band-aiding because we're denying or suppressing. So when you get a symptom, whether that's a rash, it's a physical symptom,
Mhm.
whether it's a stomach ache, whether it's a headache,
Mhm.
whether it's,
Reflux is such a common one, acid reflux.
acid reflux, so when you're getting migraines, these are all the ways that the body is trying to communicate and talk to you, to tell you Please listen to me. Something is not right.
Hmm.
Something is out of alignment right now in your
Hmm.
life. Something is not flowing. Something, there's a block, there's a trigger, there's a something is not going in the way that it should do. Your body can't talk to you, but it does talk to you through signs and symptoms.
Hmm.
And I always tell the story about the fire and a fire brigade. It's like what we often do is like we try to band-aid, we try to kind of quick fix things. That's all right short term, if you need to, but like long term, if you're suppressing it over here, it's going to show up somewhere
Yeah.
else because you're not getting to the root of the issue. And if the root of the issue is stress, we need to address that.
Yeah.
Where is the stress coming from? Why are you stressed? I always tell a story as well about, you know, uh, to finish the story about the fire brigade. It's like a fire was to go off in the building and
Hmm.
you ring the fire brigade and they come and they just turn off the fire alarm, but they actually don't quench the fire.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing sometimes in our
Yeah.
lives. The same applies to, if someone comes into you in the pharmacy and they want a tablet for their
Yeah.
headache. And you ask them, well, why have you a headache? And they might say, oh, well, I didn't sleep very well last night. Okay, why didn't you sleep very well last night? I didn't sleep very well last night because maybe I'm stressed out about something. Okay, what are you stressed out about?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm stressed out about something in work. So the work, the stress, that's the root. So we need to get into there rather than just saying you have a headache and that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So we have to go that little bit deeper
Hmm.
and we have to be brave enough and wise enough to go there because your health does matter.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, burnout is one of the biggest things that I see, particularly in women. Um, and I think we need to be very honest with ourselves and being vulnerable and putting your hand up and saying, I can't do all things and I can't be all things to all people.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is we're trying to double job, we're trying to, people are trying to be moms, they're trying to work, they're trying to go here, they're trying to do this. And yes, we potentially can do it all, but something will suffer,
Yeah.
something will go. And I think the essence of really getting at stress. And I know we'll get into the kind of more coping strategies and all of that, but we can have all of those coping strategies and they can be a form of band-aiding as well, Liz.
Yeah.
All your meditation is amazing, all your yoga is amazing, all your eating healthy green food is amazing. But if you're still not getting to the root of what's driving you to be out of alignment in the first place,
Hmm.
you're still not going to get to the root of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is it your relationship? Is it you're doing too much? Do you need to pull back? Do you need to put your hand up and ask for help? Do you need to create more boundaries? Do you need to say no more?
Yeah.
Do you need to get more comfortable in your own skin, and just start living life in your lane,
Yeah.
unapologetically true to your core values
Yeah.
and
And it
not be
could be
trying to keep up with
something
the
as could be something as simple as, less screen time. Do you know, like with I know we're on social media now and we're hopefully using it for a really good cause, trying to get a good message out there. But sometimes there's so much thrown at us through social media, and you're comparing yourself even without realizing of what other people are doing, and should I be doing that? And it can cause this disease, lack of ease, in the body, and that you're just triggered all the time, and like the our phones are kind of designed to spike our dopamine. Like it's just dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. Like there's all these chemical reactions going on in our head, and we're lying in bed just scrolling, and then we wonder why we're not sleeping, or there's just so many things, as you said, like get to the root of it. Look really honestly at your daily routine, like the little things that we do, and just ask yourself honestly, like, be your own best friend. What would you tell a friend if they put this in front of you? You know?
Yeah. And I think that sometimes we're just unconsciously walking our way through lives and we're not even aware of a lot of the things that are triggering us or that are throwing us off balance or that, and everything has a knock-on effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, your diet, your sleep affects your diet, your stress affects if you're tired, you go for glucose more, you will go for sugar. If you're eating more sugar, then you're spiking your insulin levels. If you're spiking your insulin levels, you're going to create more kind of inflammatory reactions. Your mood is going to be off. Your gut health is going to be off. If your
Yeah.
gut health is off, your serotonin's down, your mood is
Yeah.
down. So everything is then you're more groggy, then your relationships are affected and you
Mm-hmm.
don't perform as well because you're maybe dehydrated. So it's
Yeah.
it's like everything is so connected. And then when you strip it back and you start to implement small little things,
Yeah.
like even a healthy morning routine, that's just setting you up for more of a successful day. You catch your stories, you know, bring in positive affirmation.
Hmm.
You just start to fizzle down the stress. Like what I would often say is, like a year ago, I remember going to someone and I remember getting some body work done, somatic work, and then a bit of energy work. And she said to me at the time, and I like Bethany was only a few weeks old, Eli was 22, like it was just like in the thick of the haze, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget her. She said to me, "Your nervous system is it's spasticated, like it's frazzled,
Yeah.
you know." So my energy was like a wire, a coiled wire, like zzz,
Yeah.
you know, and that's exactly how I felt. And many people are going around with their energy like that, or like that Tasmanian devil, where you're zzz, and then it's more sugar and more coffee, more wine. It's like we warm up with the caffeine and cool down with the wine, or we're just keep. And then the more you're in that cycle, is the more you can't even see that you're in that
Yeah.
cycle. And you start attracting more things to keep you busy, to keep you stressed,
Hmm.
and to keep you on that wheel of in that sympathetic state dominant is what we say.
Yeah.
So it's really about, how do I first to become aware, what stage is my nervous system in?
Yeah.
Am I in the red zone, which is that high alert, go, 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 stressed, 100 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Or am I in the green zone, which is more that calm, centered, you know, grounded state?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. And we're constantly be flipping between the two, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But it's like a light
Yeah.
switch. When we go into that fight or flight site, it's to keep us safe. The antenna go on. You need that to keep you alert and safe and away from danger. But it was meant to be like a light switch. So once the threat is gone, or the perceived threat or stress is gone, then you turn the light switch off and you go into the green zone to recover, to repair, to heal, and
Yeah.
then rebalance, and then you go again.
Yeah.
But we're like the athlete never getting off the track. I mean, we all looking at the Olympics now, and you see those incredible athletes, and there's 400-meter sprints, and they're giving it their all. But imagine if the athlete just kept going and going and going and never got off the track.
Hmm.
They'd burn out, they'd get injured, you know. And sometimes we're like the athlete in our lives, but we're not getting off the track enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I like your green and red zone analogy because many people might have heard about like your rest and digest side of your nervous system versus the your fight or flight side. So your fight or flight would be the sympathetic nervous system, and then the parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest. So that's a lovely way to kind of think of red and green, just to kind of simplify it and make it more visual for people.
Yeah.
Um, but
And we
yeah,
also have I call it like the blue, which is the freeze. So
okay,
we have fight, flight, freeze, or please. So it's like four zones.
okay.
Um,
Tell us
and
about
so
that.
we're all, yeah, so we're all probably familiar with the fight or the flight, and
Yeah.
then the fight or the flight. So when you go into stress mode, your natural default will be either you put the fisticuffs on and you go and fight. Yeah, I'll
Hmm.
show you, and you kind of get your back up and you get defensive,
Hmm.
or you flight. So you want to run the hell out of there. So you're not confrontational. You're like, put the blankets over your head and just run away from the stress. So I know myself, my natural default is to run away and be like, oh my God. And I know my husband is the other. He'd put on the fisty gloves and go, attack. So I think it's to become aware of what is your natural default. You know, we all have a natural constitution and kind of default, given maybe the way you're reared or the way you grew up, and your
Yeah.
environment. Now that can change, of course.
Hmm.
We're not, held down to that one way of being. But it's just to become curious. You know, what is my natural default? But then we also have freeze. And that is where, I often think of it like if you're driving down the motorway and if you were to put your foot on the accelerator, that's kind of the fight, gonna
Hmm.
go. If you put your foot on the brake, it's like the flight. It's like, oh, get me out of here, run from the stress. But
Yeah.
the freeze is like you're driving down the motorway and you're putting your foot on both, and
Yeah.
it's just a brake, and it's like not moving anywhere. And that happens as if we really get in a very stressful situation, or there's a trauma there,
Hmm.
and you just go numb. It's like a numbing,
Yeah.
and you freeze. So if you think of an ice block, and it's like solid, it's frozen, there's no movement there.
Yeah.
And in order to come out of that freeze, you have to thaw. I call it the thawing process.
Hmm.
And that's the melting of the ice. And that's doing the work. That's sometimes, going to your therapy,
Yeah.
working through whatever the issue was that made you stop and block in
Yeah.
the first place. It's almost like, or say, think for if you go through a relationship breakdown,
Hmm.
you often think people put a wall up around the heart. They
Yeah.
freeze, they put a barrier there because the pain was so hard. They're like, I'm never going there again,
Yeah.
until they learn to dissolve that block and
Hmm.
let the love in again and let the love out again.
Yeah.
Or think of a time when you were maybe studying for an exam and you knew you had so much to do, but you just could, like, you just kept running away from it. Like, you were just like, couldn't face it. Like, you were blocked to going there. You're just like, oh, I just clean the dishes, or put on
Yeah.
it, so we have a block sometimes, or we get
Yeah.
frozen. Um, so that's another response to stress. And
Yeah.
then the fourth one is just kind of a more new age one, and it's like the please. So that's like the people pleaser. It's
Mm.
like when stress comes on, I'll just please everybody and do everything for everyone so everyone will like me, and I'll be loved and lovable, and I'll be a kind person, and then everything will be okay. But yet you are actually doing a massive disservice to yourself. You're not loving yourself, and
Yeah.
you're
You're
creating anger and
not,
irritation
yeah,
internally.
staying quiet and suppressing everything internally. Yeah, I would have been guilty of that one now a while back.
Me too, and
Yeah.
so many of us are.
Yeah.
And it's to realize that the only person that's really getting the toxic hit is you. Because
Yeah.
if you're suppressing, denying your emotions, you're not letting them out. Well, then the congealing, the building of that internal stress, every emotion has an impact on the different organs.
Yeah.
So anger is the liver, grief is the lungs, the spleen, worry, the stomach, overthinking, the bladder and the kidneys, fear. So if we're not working through those emotions and releasing them in a healthy way, they have a massive physical impact on those organs and can cause them to get not to flow
Yeah.
and not to be at optimum functionality.
Yeah.
So by suppressing and denying your needs, you're actually causing a disservice to your own health, not just to your emotional well-being.
Yeah. And just mentioning emotions, like a lot of people find it hard to kind of imagine how something you can't see can have a physical effect on your body. But like the easiest ways, I know I've heard you describe it before, like if you're upset or sad about something, we physically produce tears. Or talking about exams, if you're very, very nervous about exams or a driving test or something coming up, you probably spend a bit more time in the bathroom than normal. So
Yeah.
like physical, your body does react physically to emotions and thoughts. But there's a certain amount of our thoughts we can try to control, and tools we can use to help with when you're spiraling into negative spirals.
Yeah,
um yeah.
absolutely. And so I think like the biggest thing is how do we get the body out of stress?
Yeah.
So the more we get the body out of stress is the more the body can come into coherence and harmony and heal.
Yeah.
So really, so I know we mentioned the vagus nerve earlier, and there's a lot of talk about that lately. And really, you want to stimulate your vagus nerve. You want to get the body out of the fight or flight side of the nervous system, and you want to turn on the green zone, which is getting the body into that rest, digest, the parasympathetic side of the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many ways that we can do that. And the good thing is they're very simple. They don't take that much time, and they're cheap and free, most of
Yeah.
them, and can be done anywhere at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is to do them regularly throughout your day. Because what happens is when you get up in the morning, you have your cortisol rising naturally just to give you get energy to get up and get your tasks done for the day. But as we're going out throughout the day, we're getting hit and walloped all day long,
Yeah.
whether it's psychological stress. It's not like the bears jumping out of the forest anymore. It's the psychological stress. And it's not even the emails or the to-do list or that. They're just things. What actually causes the stress is your reaction to those things.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can control how we react and how we respond, well, then we can actually have a huge control over the stress in the body. So
Yeah.
two people might react very differently to say you're waiting at a bus stop to go to work and the bus is late. So now you're getting a bit stressed. Oh my God, I'm going to be late for work. What's Una going to think? And I could be sitting at the bus stand. So you're now your adrenaline and your cortisol is pumping, and maybe you're stressing because maybe you were late before in a past job and you got the head eaten off you, or you lost your job because you were late. And so you have this story or this narrative
Mm-hmm.
that, oh my God, if I'm going to be late for work, it's catastrophic.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm in the bus stop and the same thing happens to me, but I've never had an issue with being late before. No one's ever given out to me. I'm like, Una's sound. She's grand. If I'm a few minutes late, what about it?
Yeah.
So we have the same scenario, but we completely have different stress levels. So it's
Yeah.
our reaction and our response to the stress that's actually going to dictate what the impact is going to be in the body.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is, how do we get the body out of stress? How do we navigate, when stress gets thrown at us? What are the coping strategies? What can we implement? But also, how do we activate more that vagus nerve? So
Yeah.
that vagus nerve is also known as the wandering nerve. And it's the biggest nerve in the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, which is that green, rest, digest. So you
Yeah.
want that working well. You want that, moving and working and stimulating all the organs to do the right
Mm-hmm.
thing at the right time.
Yeah.
So that starts in the brain, the medulla. It moves down. It's the wandering nerve. It's a big long one that wanders around the body. The Latin for from vega, vagus nerve, is to wander like a vagabond, to wander.
Okay.
So it starts at the medulla, the brain, and it moves down the right and the left side of the body. It goes down each side of the throat, affects, through the ear, the throat, the tongue, affects the back of the throat, and then it goes down towards the lungs, the heart, the abdomen, and down into the digestive organs. So it's literally a communication. It's the biggest channel of communication between the gut and the
Yeah.
brain, really. So if that's activated, think about it, it's going to affect all those organs.
Yeah.
So your breath is going to be calmer and more shallow or deeper. If that's not activated, you end up getting shallow breathing, you get in that fight or flight, short, shallow breathing. The heart rate is going to be lower, it's going to be calmer, your blood pressure, and then all the digestive system is going to work better and
Your
be more at ease.
skin is an organ too. So like even when we think of all the inflammatory skin conditions we come across, and I was probably a bit stressed not stressed, but like excited, nervous starting the live tonight. And I could feel it, my neck is like redder. It's all affected.
Massively. I remember doing my first talk, and one of my first talks in the Viva, and I remember going into the bath. It was one of my first, and I remember going into the bathroom, and my neck was all red. I was like, oh my God, yeah. And I was going on, and I actually used that example. I told the audience, I was like, this is what happened, so it's, and you get sweaty hands, your heart rate goes up when you go into stress, but it's there's a physical reaction to stress as well as the internal stuff that you don't see. But,
So what are your favorite ways to activate the vagus nerve?
so very simple ones, so obviously your deep breathing is, and that's it's my go-to, because obviously I teach and I've taught yoga and breath work and stuff and mindfulness and meditation, but deep breathing is probably the probably quickest way of getting out of fight or flight and
Yeah.
into the rest digest, and one of the most powerful ways.
Yeah.
So by engaging in slow, deep diaphragmatic or belly breathing, you are signaling to your body that there's no threat, there's no danger.
Yeah.
Because when you're in fight or flight, you are breathing very rapidly and shallowly. So the body is saying, oh, there's threat. No, you need to keep moving. But if you can stop and take a deep, slow belly breath, so then the body goes, well, she's not running away from a bear now or a tiger. She can slowly breathe, so she must be safe.
Yeah.
So we want the body to feel safe. And deep breathing can do that. So it's just breathing in through the nose, let the belly rise, pause at the top, and then exhale, let the belly fall. You can
Yeah.
do the deep belly breaths so easily. Take 5 to 10 of them. I mean, you can do them sitting at your desk. You can do them while you're driving the car.
Yeah.
You can do them in the shower. You can do it while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. So
Yeah.
that would be one of the most powerful ones.
Yeah.
You can do box breathing, which is breathing in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and pause for 4. You can do your 4-7-8
Yeah.
breath. You can do even the more stimulating breath, but like your lion's breath. That's an amazing one to detoxify, to release anger and stress. So that's your breathing in, and then on your exhale, you open your mouth, release the tongue, and it's like a, it's a real like letting
Yeah.
go. Because a lot of the time
You feel
stress is
like
a
you.
build up. Yeah, and you're activating the back of the throat, which is getting that vagus nerve.
Mhm.
Other things like humming, like it sounds crazy, gargling, humming, singing, even listening to music, relaxing music, because as I mentioned, it goes through the ear down into the throat. So all of those things start to activate that calming sensation within the nervous system.
Yeah. I
Um,
I was working just today doing an in-store day in one of our stores in Kinvara and just doing consultations with anyone that was passing by willing to listen or wanting to ask questions. And I did the 5 finger breathing exercise with a couple of people. And so that's where you trace up your thumb, inhale
yeah,
as you trace up and pause at the top and exhale through the mouth, pausing at the bottom and really slowly going over all 5 fingers. And people visibly change in front of you and like everyone says, "Whoa, I nearly feel dizzy." That sort of breathing exercise where you're really focusing on the task in hand. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not able to be worrying about what may happen or hasn't happened yet or what happened in the past. You're really in the present moment, and that the relaxation effect that has on the body like would be very similar to a lot of medication like benzodiazepines like your Valium, your Xanax. So for people when I'm dispensing those types of drugs, like if we can educate people about a simple free breathing exercise that people can do internally, you don't have to reach for anything externally. It's right there in front of you. You can do it anywhere at any time. And if you can do that even in conjunction with the medication, you're going to get such a better outcome, like such a bigger relaxation effect. And then, as you said, if you practice it regularly, so don't wait till you're completely overwhelmed and anxious and upset about something and then be like, what was that breathing exercise Miriam and Liz were talking about? Practice it regularly so you have it. It's like a tool in your back pocket that you have all the time with
yeah,
you. And you're queuing in the shop for your groceries and you could just be counting the breath in, holding it, exhaling. I'm always doing breathing exercises in work if it gets to a very busy point of the day and there's a lot of people coming to you for lots of different things and you're like, right, just focus on the breath for a couple of breaths. I've spoken to doctors that have gone to wash their hands and while washing their hands they do it mindfully. So focus on the temperature of the water, the feeling of your fingers against each other, like looking at the flow of the water. And that's just like a timeout. And it's those little resets. The more we practice them, and as you said, like it's like a light switch. You switch off that stress response and break the cycle. It's like an electrical
yeah,
circuit. And the more we practice breaking it off, turning that off, the more resilient we become. I'm very aware of using that word resilient because I know sometimes it's thrown at people and it's like, well, we just maybe shouldn't be living in such a fast-paced world and pull back a little bit and not just cope with this extra speed cycle that we're on.
yeah,
So there is like I do take that with a pinch of salt. But one thing that I could really visualize was if you're wearing a backpack all day and all day you're putting rocks into the backpack
yeah,
over and over and it's just getting really, really, really heavy to carry. By practicing these little stress, like relieving exercises, if to call
yeah,
them that, like breathing exercise, it's like emptying the rucksack and then you start again. And yes, things will come at you from all angles and
yeah,
stress will come towards you. But the more we practice emptying that rucksack, we're able to cope with it more.
yeah.
Um, so I
We
find
call
that
it,
works well for me.
yeah, we often call that myself and Jerry the rucksack of life, and it's like that's constantly, as you said, there'll be rocks being put in, and sometimes big ones that you weren't even expecting, but
Mhm.
we have to, I suppose, firstly review. I often do the 4 R's, and it's review, reassess, realign, and reset. So you have to firstly review what's going on in your life, what's going well and what's not going well.
Mhm.
Why is my rucksack now full? What have I let into my life
Yeah.
that I don't need right now, or that's crept back in? So
Mhm.
maybe it's a bad habit that's crept back in. Maybe it's the bottle of wine in the evening, or maybe it's I haven't gone for my walk or my exercise, or maybe at lunchtime I'm kind of just sitting at the desk rather than walking around and maybe I'm taking the lift instead of the stairs. What things have kind of crept back in?
Mhm.
So reviewing, and then you reassess and you go, okay, well, where does my priorities need to go now? Because I think the biggest thing in life that causes us stress is that we're not aligning intention with attention with intention.
Mhm.
So our attention is going to the wrong things. We're giving our energy and our space to the things that aren't really fulfilling us or nourishing us. And we're
Mhm.
getting pulled then out of alignment or away from our core values.
Mhm.
So reassessing what are my priorities now? And as you go through life, even every couple of months, your priorities might
Yeah.
change. So it's trying to reassess. And then only then can you realign, because then you're realigning back to your heart's calling, back to your core values, back to, well, what is it that I need right now in this stage of my life? And starting to dissolve away or taking away those rocks that are burdening you down and causing you stress. And that
Mhm.
might be creating boundaries. It might be saying no to a job, to an opportunity, to a person, to a place.
Yeah.
Because the more you say no to something else, it's the more you're actually saying yes to yourself in a
Mhm.
healthy way. And then you
Yeah.
reset, as you said again. So then it's putting new practices, new routines in place, creating a new code, calendar of daily events. So what is it I'm going to do every day or every week? This, to put myself back up, rebalance that nervous system, and go again and begin again.
Yeah.
And to continue on just of what we were saying about those, practical tips, I said the breathing, talked about the different things to stimulate the vagus nerve, cold water immersion. We're huge fans of that in this house. We get into the sea every day if we can. And again, that's like when you're in the sea or you're in an ice bath or having a cold shower, it's like you can't think of anything else. You're just in that moment. You're just and you automatically have to breathe because it can take your breath away. It's literally it makes you breathe. It makes you come back to here and now.
Yeah.
Um, while
And it's
also,
elongating that exhale, isn't it? Because you automatically are like, and
yeah,
anything we do to elongate the exhale automatically has a relaxation effect on your body. So it's amazing what our body does naturally. But like we're trying to, you know, talk about it and almost learn it. But our body knows what to do if it's put in a natural situation.
absolutely. And then like going back to basics, I mean, like just simplifying things. That's what I've really started to do in my life. It's just to simplify life and things and the pace as much as I can.
Mm.
And in doing that, you extract so much more joy from those mini things, those micro moments. For me, it's something with my kids in the garden, or, coming back to gratitude, coming back to saying a prayer. I have huge faith, but, you know, recently I hadn't been going to the church to light my candle, or, saying my prayer in the morning or whatever it is. And it's just finding something that anchors you back to feeling safe, to kind of
Mhm.
taking the busyness and the shackles off, the mask down, where you can just go.
Yeah.
That's why the breathing is just like, that's why, even movement, yoga, breath work practices, qigong, anything where you get to move, you get to flow, you feel lighter at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I know you spoke about earlier about the breathing, almost being as good as your relaxant medication. Same with exercise. I mean, if you're not exercising, it's like taking a
Yeah.
depressant, and we know the serotonin that gets released. We know the boost of endorphins that gets released We know the cannabinoids. We know it's like that internal morphine that gets activated, that bliss. So the more we're doing that is the more we're taking the body out of stress.
Yeah.
And then just regular things to rest, like take a nap if you need to, go to bed that 15 minutes a bit earlier, unplug from the screens a bit more, get out in nature, meet up with friends, community, connectivity, have a good belly laugh.
Yeah, like playfulness, isn't that what we're lacking in this world? Like, we can become so serious as adults, but if you watch, I'm sure with your two kids, like, just finding joy and fun in things, like not taking ourselves so seriously either. So, like, if you think about what you enjoy, whether it's dancing, whereas quite like with a lot of people, especially the younger generation now, as soon as people are out dancing, someone takes out a phone and it's videoing, and all of a sudden it's performance, do you know? So people like change how they move. So it's like just giving ourselves permission to have fun and not care what we look like or sound like, or, just let go a little bit, and
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
And that's,
I heard they call it vitamin P, vitamin
yeah.
playfulness.
Yes, yeah, and that's, the internal vitamins. I talk about that a lot. Is like, your vitamin L, love. Your vitamin H is your, home. What's your home environment? Your vitamin A is like your acceptance, acknowledgement. You know, achieving, but with like you're coming to your action steps to achieve, what to achieve through acknowledgement. And to acceptance of where you're at without trying to, as you said, push force, which leads to that like burnout. And I think really, if anything today, it's how do we, speed hides the need. I often even say on my yoga mat when I'm doing yoga, people slow things down because speed hides the need. So if you're speeding up in your life, your needs are been hidden. Your needs are
Mhm,
been pushed aside, distracted, and then you get to a place where you can't even hear your needs or don't know your needs. So then you're pulled out of alignment to what your heart wants you to do, to what
mhm.
your soul wants you to do. And then when you're living a life that's pulled out of alignment, then you're going to be in more stress because then you have this internal tug of war, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And this is building up internally like a stress, like that coil that's been pulled and pulled until eventually it snaps. And it
Yeah,
can snap through, like you just lose that. You know how you lose, you have an argument, you fly off the handle, or you can snap in terms of a sign or a symptom or a disease or a
yeah,
sickness. So I think it's just important that we can is to slow things down so that we can get still and silent enough to listen and reassess our life,
yeah,
to reassess where are my priorities, what is causing me stress,
yeah,
and ask yourself, myself and Jerry often say this, in every and any situation, what would love do?
yeah,
And what would bring me and my life closer to a life of ease and grace and peace and harmony and joy?
mhm,
Or is this decision going to bring me further away from that and further into chaos and busyness and stress and turmoil? And it's
yeah,
having the honesty and the integrity to sit with those big questions
mhm.
and have the bravery to go with what your heart wants you to do.
And
Because
yeah, act on it.
I really believe if you're listening to your heart and you're following that inner intuition, that wisdom, that soul's calling, you're going to have more ease
Mm.
and less disease, less stress, because you're going to be more in flow with what it is that you're here to do.
Yeah. I know for a lot of people, when we put out the question box, what causes you stress or questions people wanted to ask, a lot of topics that came up were about stress within the family, and especially for mothers that are trying to balance working, children, potentially parents who are sick, and potentially, kids or family members that have an illness that they're trying to manage as well, and feeling really pulled in so many directions. Like, what advice would you give to someone in that situation? Because I know, like, you've two young kids, and I know you can relate to a few things I've said there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, firstly, it's not easy.
Mm,
100%. And I have, as you know, two young kids, and my dad was very sick this past year, and navigating all of that it's scary, because everything is kind of put before you. And you're also trying to be here, there, and everywhere for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not possible, really, first and foremost. And I think the biggest thing that I found that helps me in a situation like that is when, it's overwhelming. It's, there's a lot been thrown at you. It's scary. It's unknown. It's unpredictable. It's uncertain. Um, and the nervous system definitely gets frazzled. I think the biggest thing for me was to pull back and take a bird's eye view initially, rather than just diving straight in and trying to fix everything. And I think for
Mm-hmm.
me, that was the biggest thing, because I naturally want to fix everything. And I naturally, coming from my background as a pharmacist and now working in health and wellness, wanted to fix my dad and want to do this and bring in this and da, da, da. And that's just adding more chaos to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not there to fix, you're not there to change, you're not, well, not to change, you can help facilitate change for sure, but you're not there to fix, you're not there to structure and organize. People have their own lives as well, and you have to have, I think for me, it was an acceptance, firstly, of what's going on. To
Yeah.
accept this is happening, has happened, whatever the stress is going on in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and not to get stuck in the weeds of it or stuck in the past of what has happened. It's to reframe, okay, what can I control now?
Yeah.
So we can't control what has happened.
Yeah.
We cannot control other people. We cannot control the outsides. But what we can absolutely control is our own thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
how we react and how we respond to that situation. And the biggest thing for me is, what is the energy that you want to bring to the table? What's the energy you want to bring into the room? Do you want to be a kind, loving, calm person? Because that is going to help every situation.
Yeah.
If you're coming in like a Tasmanian devil, or angry or frustrated or pissed off or whatever it
Yeah.
is, just take those rocks out of that rucksack.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I think you have to accept, to acknowledge, and it's then saying, okay, what can I do? What can I control? How can I be of
Mm-hmm.
service without losing yourself along the way? Because then you're no good to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for thanks for sharing all that, by the way. I think for people listening that feel in that kind of Tasmanian devil sort of flair, I think to offer advice is, would you agree to look at a morning routine? Like, I think if you start the day right, I know for me that's something I brought in, where you just, the days where I do it, I'm not saying I do it all the time, but I'm working on it. Where you sit and you get up and you put out the yoga mat, often in your pajamas, like you don't need any equipment or anything, just throw out the yoga mat. I often use a guided video, 10 or 15 minutes of yoga or Pilates, sit for a breathing exercise or a few stretches afterwards, maybe a positive affirmation, like one line, like something encouraging. And those days, I am so much more able for whatever is thrown at me. I'm less reactive, as we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
So, for what would you agree, or do you have anything else you could add for
Yeah.
people to bring in? Maybe even we could talk a bit about what we intake, like whether it's coffee versus lemon and ginger or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's so many things really, and I think, yeah, definitely how you start. We often say win the morning, win the day.
Mm,
Um, you're just better prepared to, as you said, deal with the stuff that's thrown
yeah,
at you throughout the day. And then it's regularly resetting throughout the day, whether that's through your breathing, whether that's through your just leaving the room, going to the bathroom, taking a few deep breaths, planting your 2 feet down, placing your hands on your heart. That releases oxytocin, makes you feel safe. Closing down the eyes, taking a deep breath, bringing in an affirmation, even progressive relaxation techniques, breathe in,
mm,
squeeze, breathe into your wrists or fists, make fists with your hands, bring the shoulders to the ears, breathe in, and then exhale, drop the shoulders, open the hands. Even those little things regularly throughout your day, you're just helping to release the build up of the stress.
Mm-hmm.
But the morning is a wonderful thing, definitely. And again, there's so much you can do before you even get out of bed. You can say your prayer, you can do a little visualization, close down the eyes, visualize how you want to see yourself today, visualize the woman you want to be. I want to be calm, I want to be productive, I want to be loving, I want to be kind. Almost visualize yourself how you'll walk, how you'll hold yourself, what you'll wear. Visualize yourself smiling, having a laugh. Visualize yourself eating well, moving. These little practical things in the morning. Say, as I said, hands on the heart, take your few deep breaths. Maybe it's a few lines of a journal beside your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe it's a couple of stretches, mirror work. Get up in the morning. You know, we all go to the bathroom, have a shower, wash your face, brush your teeth. But do we wash our mind? No, do we wash our mind, cleanse away those negative thoughts with some affirmations or some mirror work? So look into your eyes, say something loving and kind to yourself about yourself for the day ahead. So these are little things that can be done. Obviously, the bigger ones is put the runners on, get your exercise in, go for your walk, whatever it is. And I'd also just challenge yourself to not always be plugged into something. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
big one. Sometimes I go out for my walk and I love to have the fun and listen to music or whatever.
Yeah.
But you challenge yourself to go out for a walk or go out for a run or just sit without the TV on, without the radio on, without a podcast on, nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like the amount of
People
people
are
that they
afraid
can't
of
sit
doing
for
that.
5 minutes,
People are
you know,
scared of doing that, I think. Like, it's
massively.
like we don't know how to sometimes.
Totally. And I think that would be a great challenge for you because what
Mm.
comes is the busy mind then comes in, all the thought, oh my God. But become curious of it, become befriend it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
think this is a bad thing. Just say, wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Wow, where did that come from? Wow, where did that emotion come from? And welcome them all. It's not to hold on to them and stew in them. It's like, the clouds, you see them coming and
Yeah.
then, okay, let's move that on there. But I think we do the morning routine, and as you said about what we're ingesting, like please don't put coffee into your body first thing in the morning. Please don't put sugar into your body for the first thing. It's just going to spike up those sugar levels and create this cascade of spikes and plummets in the sugar levels and affects the mood massively, affects your performance, affects relationships, affects everything. Please start your day with your Simprove, which we do, warm water and lemon, or ginger, because what you're doing is you're activating, and warm is better because you're getting the digestive enzymes, the agni, which they call in Ayurveda, which is your digestive fire. You're activating that to get ready for your
Mm.
food. So it's not like a hit of what is coming after the fast. And that's what breakfast is. You're breaking the fast. So
Mm.
and also trying to get that 12-hour fast at night at least, let your body rest at nighttime. Let it not be working and digesting your food. Let it, and then that's also reducing stress because the body's allowed to actually rest.
Yeah.
And then throughout the day just watching what you're putting into the body, because of course what we eat, the more stimulants we eat, the more sugars we eat, the more caffeines we eat, we're revving up that nervous system. Think of the kids who go to a birthday party and they're high in sugar and they're like, for the evening.
Yeah.
We're no different,
Yeah.
but we've just normalized it. So
Yeah.
just trying to put in, more slow releasing, have your fruit with a handful of nuts, have a little nut butter on your old cracker, whatever,
Mhm.
your veggie sticks with your hummus or your thing. And, just trying to stabilize those sugar levels, trying
Yeah.
to keep that nervous system more balanced.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, is the less stress spikes that you're going to get.
Yeah. And we're after the stress element, the next one we're moving on to is nutrition. So we'll definitely be getting you back because it's like we could talk for hours and hours. Stress is such a huge topic, but nutrition again is massive as well. So we will come back to talk another night and probably in September about nutrition, which would be great. I just noticed the time, it's nearly 9 o'clock, so we
Oh my
better
God,
start
what?
wrapping this up.
Wow.
Um yeah, like there was one service I wanted to mention, because just if people are listening here and feeling really stressed and like want help, basically, where can they go? You can, there's a website called stresscontrol.ie, and the HSE actually have it listed on their website, and it's a series of, it's a lecture, one a week for 6 weeks, and they're starting a course at the end of September. It's totally free of charge. You just literally have a look at the website, and anybody can access that. So if you know of anyone struggling, like, they'll just help, a bit, things we've touched on tonight, but into more depth, and like ways to help manage it and move forward. And then, if you're really struggling, to just really encourage people to speak up and speak to someone and get help.
Yeah.
Don't just internalize everything. There's a really great resource called Silver Cloud that you do need a GP referral, but it's like an online therapy, CBT. It's got real people at the end of the screen, but it's a great starting step for someone that's afraid to just go full on one-on-one. So, to speak to your GP about Silver Cloud, there's financial stress is a huge thing for people. So you've got MABS, the helpline that's free. For people suffering with grief, and for children who suffered grief, like there's Bernardo's Pieta House, where there's so many amazing charities, the Irish Hospice Foundation. So please, if you need help, like, find support. The HSE have listed lots of support groups that are available. So, don't be afraid to make that move. As you said earlier, if you don't change anything, nothing different is going to happen. So just be brave in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And thank you for sharing those. And I think, to go easy on yourself as well. Like, there'll be enough people that will throw stuff at you. You don't want to be throwing stuff at yourself
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's just to start small. It's baby steps. If you are feeling very overwhelmed, very scary, the last thing is you want, I know what it's like. The last thing is you want to say, you know what you need to do now? You need to do your deep breathing, and you need to get out for a swim. And like, sometimes you're just not even able to get one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And in those days, it's literally just taking baby steps towards what will help in that moment, what
Yeah.
will nourish you. And that might be just, picking up the phone and having a chat with someone, or getting out for a little walk for some fresh air, or whatever it is, but starting small. And the more that you change a certain thing within your life, as I mentioned earlier, it has a ripple effect onto everything. And the more you just, even if you change one thing in your diet, that might have a ripple effect, because it'll affect your gut. Affecting your gut will affect your serotonin, your mood, getting out for an exercise
Yeah.
affects, your endorphin. So, which then it makes you feel a bit better. And if you feel a bit better, then you might be more willing to do something, or go to someone, or have that chat, or, so it's literally one step at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I do think the biggest thing that we can do for ourselves is try to balance that nervous system, come out of the red zone, do little things every day, like deep breathing, like your finger tracing. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of journaling, because you're just literally unloading. 5 minutes of movement or stretching. Just little things regularly and daily to rebalance and take the body out of stress, taking down the inflammation. What that will do long term is just powerful for your health and your well-being, and your mood. And then, of course, that impacts and ripples out to everybody around you as well.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. And it's all so true. It's all connected, isn't it? We're often saying to each other in work, we're like, smell the flowers and blow out the candle. And it can be something as simple as that. When you're feeling overwhelmed, just smell the flowers. Because if you did put flowers in front of someone, people take the best breath. Whereas often you ask someone to take a deep breath, they go, and everything goes up and the tummy goes in, and it's all opposite. So it's just bring it back to basics, slow down, don't complicate it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing is, like, put something nice in front of you that makes a smile to your face. So maybe it's a picture of a loved one, put it on your desk, put it on your fridge. Maybe it's an affirmation, a quote, a picture of the ocean, whatever it is. Little those triggers. Use essential oils, aromatherapy. I'm a huge believer in that. I always have essential oils on my desk, beside my bed, put them on my hand, take an inhale, and it's just very grounding, very settling, very soothing. Take a bath, wash away the day, take a shower before you go to bed. These are little things, but when done regularly, can have a huge impact, but on your physical health, but on your psychological and your emotional well-being.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Miriam. We'll definitely be getting you back on for to speak about nutrition, because I know you've done things about emotional eating, and you're full of knowledge in that area. So yeah, we'll look forward to that.
Oh,
But
thank you.
thank you, and thanks to everyone who joined and logged on. And we have to go and see now, did Ireland win gold in the
I think
swimming? Who knows?
they did. I think I saw someone pop in a quote, which
Oh
is
wow.
amazing. So yes, yes, yes. And thank you so much for having me. I'll be back, and I'll be sharing more videos around this every element and every module over the next coming weeks and months. So yeah, I'm excited
Yeah,
to continue to work with you guys.
yeah,
And I think it is the way forward, looking at integration, looking at lifestyle, and how we can empower ourselves to try and be as healthy and as well as we can, through daily actions, behaviors, and practical lifestyle
yeah.
tips.
Brilliant. And yeah, lots of the things we spoke about today, like breathing exercises, we'll be releasing videos on those, like that you can follow and do with us. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's loads to come now. So
Mhm.
tune in.
Thank
All right.
you,
Thanks,
Liz.
everybody.
No
I'll
problem.
log off here.
Thanks
Bye.
a million. God bless.
Bye.
Bye bye.